This is Mary and the Riddle of the Sphinx by Todd Stanton. It's part of Brownstone's mythical collection. I love these books. Beautifully illustrated. They're really thoughtful, and I've read the first one, so this is the second one, I believe. And the first one was Arthur and the Golden Rope. I will link to that at the end of this book. Hello, dear reader, and welcome to Brownstone's Family Observatory. Here we can survey the night sky, a thing which can be very scary and mysterious to some. One person who had this fear more than most was one of my ancestors, a girl by the name of Marcy Brownstone. Her father, Arthur, was a great explorer who had saved his village from a terrible beast when he was a young boy. And that's the story of the first book. Traveling the world, he discovered ancient secrets and collected wondrous artifacts. Until one day, he met another adventurer. Together, they moved to a small town, and Marcy was born soon after. Every evening, Marcy loved to listen to the tales of her father's adventures. She never quite believed him after all. He was very old and far too portly. But at night, everything changed. The creatures from her father's amazing tales turned into terrifying monsters in the shadows. Marcy felt utterly lost and alone in the dark. All she could do was close her eyes tight and wait for sunrise. One day, Arthur decided it was time for Marcy's first adventure. He knew that Marcy doubted his stories, so he took her deep into the forest to find an old friend. As the day wore on, Marcy started to worry that they wouldn't find their way back in the dark. Arthur pointed up to the sky and told her that the North Star would always guide them home, no matter how dark it was. Finally, they reached the entrance of a cave, and Marcy froze in fear. Evil-looking shadows climbed the walls, and she refused to go any further. Hurt that Marcy didn't trust him, and hoping she might follow him, Arthur ventured into the cave alone. Arthur had wanted to show Marcy the most incredible sight, but she didn't appear, and Arthur had to turn back. On the walk home, Arthur was very quiet, and Marcy was sure he was disappointed in her. If she couldn't go into a stupid dark cave, then maybe she wasn't an adventurer at all. Maybe she wasn't even a real Brownstone. The next day, Marcy found a note from her father. Her mother said it was nothing to worry about, but Marcy didn't feel happy at all. And it says, "Dear Marcy, gone away on urgent business. We'll be back soon. Love, Dad." And then there's a fun little drawing of Dad. A whole week went by, and Marcy was so worried that she snuck into her father's study. Hidden under piles of paper and old artifacts, Marcy found Arthur's journal. It showed that her father must have gone to Egypt to find an old book trapped in the belly of the Sphinx. Oh no! Her father had trouble just bending over when he dropped his glasses. Marcy would have to help him, somehow. Just then, she noticed the magical feather of the Windweaver tucked into the brim of her father's old hat. Arthur had told her that carrying a feather from this mighty bird would grant someone help in a time of need. Marcy smiled and put it on. Feeling a little braver already, Marcy climbed out of the study window where Windweaver was waiting for her. She felt her chest tighten as they swooped into the air and began the long journey towards Egypt and the Sphinx. And they flew from Iceland She lost her scarf, it appears, and then she fell off Windweaver. Marcy landed at the feet of a strange creature sitting on a massive throne. I am Thoth, god of knowledge and the moon. I know who you are, little girl. Your father was foolish enough to enter the Sphinx in the hope of getting my book. It seems he wanted to help you with your fear of the dark. You see, whoever possesses my book will understand all the mysteries of the world. But like many before him, he underestimated its dangers. Only if you can solve the Sphinx's riddle, enter the tomb, overcome my traps, and defeat the snake, can you free your father. Marcy was far too scared to enter the dark tomb and begged Thoth to release her father. Perhaps there's something you could do for me. The sun god Ra has two magical eyes. One holds the power of the moon, and the other holds the power of the sun. Bring me his moon eye, and I will free your father. Follow the horizon until you see a light shining through the stars. It will be Ra sailing his sun boat. Don't come back until you have his moon eye. With Thoth's words ringing in her ears, Marcy wandered through the desert toward the horizon. Suddenly, she saw what looked like a shooting star. It was bigger and bigger. Marcy had to act quickly. At the ship's helm, Marcy could see the god Ra. But first, she would have to remain unnoticed by the boat's crew of gods. Anubis, the god of the afterlife. Isis, the god of nature and magic. And Bast, the goddess of cats. With Ra in sight, Marcy came up with a plan to get his eye. But as she readied herself for the jump, she realized she couldn't steal someone else's eye. For all she knew, Ra could be a very nice god. She bravely climbed down the rigging and walked slowly up behind him. She was very small, so she had to clear her throat as she gave a big tug on his cape. Ra was intrigued by the little human who had found her way onto his sunbolt. He listened to her story before speaking. Thank you for your honesty. Thoth is always plotting to steal my moon eye. If Thoth were ever to get a hold of it, he would become unspeakably powerful and purge the whole world into evil, plunge the whole world into evil. As a reward for your service, I will help you free your father. My boat will take us to the Sphinx. The goddess of the night sky, Nut, will show us the way by shining a path in the stars, said said Ra. As Ra's ship reached the Sphinx, an anchor dropped down just before Marcy went to climb down. Ra knelt before her. Here, take my left eye. Its light will guide you and cut through the darkness shadows. Good luck. Marcy was filled with excitement. Maybe she was a real Brownstone after all. The Sphinx loomed up ahead. As she approached, it spoke its riddle. I am bright when it's dark, and dark when it's bright. I am the shepherd of the night. Who am I? Marcy had never heard of a night shepherd before. What could it possibly mean? She thought and she thought some more, but she couldn't think of the answer. And then she had a sudden idea. What was only at its brightest in the dark? The stars. And shepherds guide things, of course. The North Star. The Sphinx's mouth opened to reveal a set of steps. They led down into a deep, dark cave. Marcy trembled with fear, but she knew this was the only way to save her father. As she descended into the belly of the Sphinx, it got darker and darker. When Marcy finally found Arthur, he was too busy with the huge snake to hear her shouts. She didn't have time to think. She had to do something. Clutching the eye of Ra in her hand, she vaulted straight into the snake's mouth. In that moment, Arthur realized the book would not help Marcy. She had already overcome her fear. He dropped it and they escaped together. Outside the Sphinx, a shadowy figure was waiting for them, and an evil voice boomed. Where do you think you're going with that eye, little girl? We had a deal. Ra's eye is mine. Marcy tried to tell Thoth it was the wrong eye, but it was too late. As he took the eye, there was a flash of light, a crack of thunder, and then silence. All that was left of Thoth was a tiny bird and Ra's magic eye. Ra appeared and picked up his eye, placing the tiny bird on his shoulder. He will grow again and try to steal my moon eye. But for now, he's harmless. Together, they all climbed up onto Ra's sunbolt and prepared for home. Nut guided the sunbolt by shining the North Star as brightly as she could. When they were finally home, Marcy couldn't wait to tell her parents every single detail about her adventure in the land of Egypt. And when it was time for Marcy to go to sleep, for the first time, she didn't feel scared at all. Marcy realized that no matter how scary the dark was, even if it was filled with monsters, she was more than brave enough to fight them. And I hope one day you, too, will be able to conquer your fears, no matter how big and scary or small and silly that fear is. The end. Oh, and then Arthur took Marcy, to see what he wanted to show her. And this shows some of the constellations. And there's Thoth and a scarab. And the unknown, which is the black snake. Nut and Ra's sunboat. And then that's the Sphinx. I'll link to the other story. We love these ones. You should go out and buy them. They're really good. There's a series. I think there's 4, maybe 5. But Brownstone's Mythical Collection. Good stuff. Good night. I love you.